What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Humble Threads podcast. My name is Michael Hart.
And I am David Graves.
What's going on, dude? This is episode number 3. Absolutely blown away so far with everything we've been receiving in terms of positive feedback, even constructive criticisms that we've been able to take action on, which has been super cool. It's been about a week since we've had an episode out. I'm sure a lot has happened in, your life, my life, the world's life. Here in the Hart family household, we finally taken down all of our Christmas decorations. And that's a feat in itself. Completely redid the stream room. We were outside taking down all the lights and everything like that. But one thing that always happens to us whenever we take down our Christmas lights every single year so far we've been in this house is it kind of starts this mindset okay, we need to start reorganizing things. We need to start moving things around, cleaning other spaces up because we just get in this cleaning mode. So far we've completely redesigned our living room. And then all day today so far we've been in my garage completely. We took everything out of the garage. Everything. I'm telling you, we have accumulated far too many things over the past 3 years of being in this house, but we took everything out and then meticulously put it back in just so everything has a space, have a home. And oh my goodness, we are throwing out so much. But that's kind of been my life in a nutshell over the past week. It's a lot of rearranging, a lot of kind of figuring out what we want our house, our home to look like for 2021. What about you, Dave?
Man, this week, get ready, listeners, because this is going to be kind of like a David-centric life story. Because the week of starting of 2021 was just ridiculous for me. First, New Year's night, I get a call from my dad. Unfortunately, it wasn't for him to say Happy New Year. He was telling me my uncle wasn't doing too well, which is his brother. Which was kind of sad. He kind of me and my brother resemble them, so I look more like my dad, and I act like my dad, and he acts like my uncle Steve. But he wasn't doing too well. He had a stroke a couple years ago, and then he had another one recently. He was fighting the good fight, but he kind of said he wants to be at peace and be off the ventilator and everything, which we respected. So he passed away. I thank everybody for the condolences. But at the same time, with how me and my family view death, it's sometimes you're tired, and as you get older, you realize life takes a toll on you. It's exhausting. Trying to get everything together. So I understand where he was going, but I got to see a lot of my friends and family yesterday morning. People I haven't seen in years. People from Atlanta, Georgia, all over the place. So it was really good to see them bond, catch back up. People who haven't seen me since I was 18. I am 26 now. So, and you have a mask on, so everyone's looking at you like, no way. David? No way. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, you are this big. And, I can't, you have a beard. I can't, how are you doing? I'm like, I moved in with my girlfriend. We got a house. Oh my, you got a girl. Let me see her. And then everyone wants to see photos and everything. But that happened, which, it's never fun with funerals. But at the same time, you see everybody, and it kind of made all of us realize that we really do all miss each other. And unfortunately, our family's kind of spread out, and we want to maybe make a website so that way we can all get together and see each other more and be up to date. Like, oh, David's a graphic designer. Instead of outsourcing, maybe you should go to him. Or my uncle's a musician, amazing musician. He can play the piano, sing, and everything. So that was pretty crazy. So that's day one. Not even day one, really.
Not even getting started. Not even getting started.
No. So that happens, and then Tuesday, was it Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday. We usually put Coda in the cage. This is dealing with my dog that we recently just got. We rescued her. She is a Plot Hound lab mix, if you haven't heard me say it before. So we put a blanket over her cage. We put another blanket in front of the cage because it just covers the side and the back a little bit. But we let a little bit open in the back so she can get some airflow so she's not crazy. And I'm like, listen, all you got to do is sit there from 8 a.m. to 1 o'clock. Daddy will come get you after that. Just relax. That's all you got to do. Chill out. And she gets very, very angry when Ashley comes home and doesn't say hi to her. So Ashley was like, did she go out to the bathroom? Did you take her? I'm like, yeah. And this is at 7:40 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, she did all that. So Coda's just barking her head off. Ashley's like, well, I'm going to go upstairs and go to bed. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to say hi to her or let her out? And she's like, no, because then I got to do all this and put her back in. And I'm like, you know what? I understand. respiratory therapist, your life's a little crazy right now. Everything going on in the world. So I'm hearing her barking when I'm at work, and I'm like, huh, like she's barking a little more than normal, but like a little more than normal. So I go downstairs. I see the blanket like just like tight on the cage, and the front blanket's missing. And the blanket's just wrapped like around the cage. I'm like, oh my god, she pulled all the blankets in. I was like, there's no way. She does it a little bit, but not this bad. So I open up the crate. The one blanket is completely in the crate. I just see her in a position where she can't move, and she's like whimpering and whining. And I like see her leg, and the first thing I'm thinking is she broke her leg. Like she wrapped herself in the blanket somehow, thrashed her way around. So I run upstairs. I'm like, Ash, you gotta get up. Like I think Coda broke her leg. So we're sitting downstairs. We're trying to get her out of there. She bites Ashley's hand a little too hard, so she's bleeding. I'm like, oh, I'm like just get out. Just move real quick. Let me handle this. So I try and grab the blanket and move it the way where like her foot isn't near. So she gets out. She's limping. I'm like, golly. It's like call the hospital, somebody. But luckily enough, I think she just like twisted her paw a little weirdly, and it was a whole mess, and she was limping, and I'm sitting there like, Coda, you got just sit there from 8 to 1, girl. I know Ashley's here, you're excited, but she's got to work, and but this is our puppy life, so that's like day 2 of the new year, really. But puppy life has been kind of crazy, Mike. I know you have dogs. If you have any any advice or anything, but.
I'm gonna tell you something you don't want to hear, man, and that is that I understand the value of crate training because our corgi is crate trained, or at least was, because when my wife first got our corgi, she had to work, but was not working at home, so she had to leave the corgi in a crate, and then come back, after 8 hours or whatever of being at work, and then let her out to do everything she needs to do. And one thing that we've learned the most about after we've been in this house together, we now have another dog which we recently about 2 years ago rescued, is that ultimately you need to kind of be there for them in a way, and even more so than you want to be. They say when you have a baby, you kind of want to let them cry it out sometimes, and so that they can learn that they need to sleep through the night by themselves and all of that. But with dogs, because you're not able to like rationalize with a dog, like you can't be like, hey, it's just a couple more hours, right? They don't really understand that, and specifically if they're being covered so they can't see outside. You have to understand that, at least the way I've been made to understand it, is that dogs are more routine based than they are based around what time it is.
Oh yeah.
So if you in your mind you're like, okay, the dog's gonna sleep from 8 to 1 in the crate, and then we're gonna let him out, and then we're gonna play, do all the things a family would do with a dog. It's important to remember that like the dog itself has no, like once it's in the crate covered in blankets, it really has no sense of time. And a lot of younger dogs, specifically still in the kind of early, like under a year to just over a year age, they're so routine based, and they can smell. So for example, if Ash is coming home and isn't able to say at least hello or do something, the dog might, it gets mixed signals about the routine, and it would be, I don't know, beneficial if you only use the crate when it's 100% necessary.
Yep.
Or at least leave the door open. So allow the dog to choose where it wants to relax. For example, our rescue hates being in the crate any time of day other than when we are sleeping, but insists on only going into the crate if we leave the door open. Now we keep our dogs sleep with us in our bedroom, so we do have the crate in the bedroom, but with the door open, and then our corgi tends to either sleep underneath our bed or on our bed, and the rescue's in the crate. So the more you can allow the dogs, I mean, obviously it's the young dogs, so you don't want to let them out in the house and not pay attention to have them eat your shoes. A pair of Nikes might get ruined. But you got to treat them like a baby. It's like a lot of puppies are, it's akin to kind of having like a child essentially, and you need to as much as you wish you can kind of like in our virtual digital world to like unplug the dog when you don't want to use it and plug it back in when you want to use it. Like that's not the case. It's a living thing, so like you have to really be the
yeah.
be the dad for, at least in my opinion, from what I've dealt
Oh
with.
yeah, no, you're
But
completely right. It's just, when it's just like with anything, depending on how you're raised and how, say, you and your wife eventually have kids, it's how you're raised, how she was raised. Especially with me with dogs is with the way my dad's a Marine, so the way we trained our dog was it's a dog. It's not
sure,
your baby. But Ashley views it as her child and everything else. But I always tell her, and it's kind of hard when you're trying to tell someone what to do. It's always hard with that, especially not saying women or anything like that. But it's both ways. Like if she's trying to tell me what to do, I'm kind of like, man, you don't know. Like sometimes that happens. Like you don't know
yeah,
what you're talking about. But especially after that experience, we've had to sit down. And I was like, listen, I know you're tired. It's okay and everything, but you have to at least give her like at least 10 minutes of your time because that's not fair to her because she's like, oh, and I'm like, she loves you because when you leave, she loses her mind. So
right,
it's like you gotta to give her 10 minutes, of time to realize it. But she usually does good in the morning. She knows we eat, we go out, we come back in, we finish our breakfast, then we go back out again, then we come in, we play with our toys, and then she's like, all right, put me in the crate. I put her in the crate and she's fine. She doesn't bark, everything else like that. But if once she hears Ashley comes home, it's mom's home, and I can't see her, so
yeah,
that's when she
right,
starts going crazy. Yeah.
exactly.
So, but
Here's
we,
what I have a question for you.
yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but I do
No,
have
you're
a
fine.
question
Go ahead. Yep.
that I would love to know the answer to. So think about it, and then think about it after the question, and then I'll explain my side of things. So,
Hmm.
who does your new lovely puppy believe the alpha in your family is?
I
Um,
honestly, it's hard to tell because I feel like she knows I'm the enforcer. So like if she's doing something, I'm like, "Hey, stop!" She'll sit there and be like, "Oh, crap!" Like he's
uh,
because I'm the one who puts. We have like a vibrating collar. I'm the one who puts that on her. If she
sure.
starts going too crazy and won't listen, she's biting Ashley's nephew. But if we're chilling and whatnot, like right now, I think she's downstairs with Ashley on the couch. Like she'll sit there with Ashley on the couch and be calm and everything. But it's weird because usually you can tell. Like you can tell, like, oh, he's only
Yeah,
gonna
oh
listen
yeah.
to whatever. But like I was just saying, I was. What were we gonna say? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that the way I figured this out is because I'm very much like you. Like in the household, if I tell one of my dogs to sit down, stop, come here, do whatever, they listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically when we're on a walk, like I
Mm-hmm.
find that my dogs pull less when I'm holding the leash.
Mm-hmm.
But and this was kind of like crazy to first start dealing with. Back when me and my wife first got together and we first started living together. At the time, we only had the corgi. The
Mm-hmm.
corgi was the one that told me everything because I don't know if anyone out there has ever had a corgi, but corgis will actually talk to you. They will have full on conversations with you, and they can learn to understand. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But I discovered that I was significantly lower on the
The
pecking
pack,
order
the pack totem.
because because whenever I would leave, like to
Mm-hmm.
go out by myself or go to work and leave Carolyn in the house with dogs, like the dogs were fine. Nothing. She would she would always say, "Hey, how are the dogs?" I said, "The dogs are doing great. We're just hanging on the couch, having a good time."
Mm-hmm.
But don't like a switch flips. If she leaves the house,
Yep. Yep.
it's chaos.
Yep.
Like my dogs have the most like severe attachment to
Mm-hmm.
her,
Mm-hmm.
and when she leaves, the world is ending.
Yeah.
And they both come find me with like scared faces, and they're like,
Yep.
"Where's mom?" And
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yep.
and as soon as I realized that they do that when she leaves, and they don't do that when I leave, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Aha!
Mm-hmm.
My wife is the
Yeah.
alpha here."
I think well, and that's another thing because like I really like wolves and I study that type of stuff, but I think it's more or less like there's a difference between alpha and the mom.
That's
You
true.
know,
I
I
guess that's
think
what I mean. Yeah,
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's what I mean.
So they're like, oh, like Mike's like if they did something, they're like, hey, stop, and like you yelled at him a little
Oh
bit, they'd
yeah, yeah,
probably be
yeah.
like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
oh crap, daddy's talking and we need to sit down. But it's something different with women where it's like they have that mother type of feel, like they feel
yeah,
that. So that's a
yeah.
whole different and like just like with kids, like no one's really crying for their dad. Everyone's crying for their mom usually. So like if you think about that, that's mostly the thing. But it's
Yeah,
kind of funny thinking about
yeah,
the
that's true.
pecking order. But speaking about that, when you just asked that, when we were outside, our neighbor's kids finally just came up and talked to him, talked to Coda. And we're trying to get her more used to being around people and not being inside all the time. So she was doing a little too much nipping at him and biting, and I'm sitting there talking to our neighbor, and I from across the way, I say, "Hey, stop!" And she sits down and looks over at me, and then looks back at my girlfriend, and then looks at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm talking to you. Stop." And she relaxes and starts playing a little better. So it's funny when you look at it, but it's also a different thing between mother and the alpha pack leader. But right, but just like what you said,
It's that, yeah.
once my girlfriend leaves,
It's like that good cut.
Oh, the good cop.
It's like
Yeah.
that good cop, bad
Yeah,
cop.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm definitely like, I feel like I play a hybrid role, but in the
Mm-hmm.
grand scheme of it, like if I say like don't do that or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like they tend to listen. Um, but I don't know. Like my one dog, my rescue, she has this face, this smile that she
Mm-hmm.
just gives you, and like she could be doing the worst thing. She could be tearing up your favorite pair of shoes, and
Yep.
then she just gives you this face, and you're like, all is right in the world. Like I
Yeah,
didn't need those shoes.
it's
Uh,
funny, man. Dogs, I don't think I will ever understand a dog. I've always wanted one. Now we have one, but just like what you
yeah.
said, once Ashley leaves, it's barking at the door, crazy eyes, looks at me, runs to the couch, wants to get up on the couch and like sit up under me, and I'm like, all right. Very rarely I go upstairs, and we have like a little kid gate, so she can't come upstairs because she is afraid to go down the stairs, so she ends up pooping or peeing up here. So very rarely I go upstairs and I hear barking and crying at the gate. And I said, I know you're not crying for me. There's no way you're crying for me. You don't ever do that. And I can see where it's starting to shift as she gets older. It's like, oh, well, dad's usually here with me. He makes sure I get treats, I'm fed, we go to the bathroom. Now, when I mess up, like, and she like pees inside, she comes and looks at me, and I look at him like, yeah, you did something, didn't you? And she like puts her head down and like her ears are back. I'm like, oh, you must have peed somewhere. Here we go. And then she kind of like
Here we
goes
go.
towards the she goes towards the door and says, "Yeah, I know I should have went outside." But puppy life, man. I mean, she's way bigger now than when she was. She's getting a little better. Thank the
No doubt.
Lord, our contractor finally came and replaced our glass doors, like our sliding glass doors, both of them. So that might mean we're on a good path for him to finish our basement. So the Dave Cave, as you guys might know this when you see me in here, will be moving downstairs, completely revented or re wow, why am I losing the word? Whatever, recreated. We'll be moving it around. I think it's renovated. Jesus Christ, there we go.
Renovated.
Renovated. We'll be making it my own space, so I can have like my space where I can do this, and then I'll have like my workspace for when I'm doing
Right.
work for stuff like that. But that's my life, man.
And that's the dream. Yeah.
Unfortunately, my life revolves around my dog a little bit because she's a puppy, and we're still getting her acclimated.
It'll be like that for a little while. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when you get a puppy, you know they're a puppy, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they grow up and become your best friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Then they stick out there for you, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
they're not waiting on you for everything. They can start handling things themselves, and that's a wonderful thing once you reach that. But
Yeah.
you know, it it's one thing to to be dealing with everything that's been going on lately, but one
Yeah.
thing that I personally jump into on a regular basis
Mm-hmm.
is honestly books and audiobooks. I'm obsessed with
Yeah.
on Audible. I thought when I first signed up for, I was like $15 for a free book, and I was like, I don't know, if I want to do that every single month. I
just
can
to
spend
let
50.
you guys just to let you guys know, Mike's quote, and this is my favorite quote from Mike. He said, I read books like people eat food or something. So he consumes a lot of books. It was something like that. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think I said sandwiches. Like I think I said I read books like people eat sandwiches. Like they're
Yeah.
just once you start, you gotta finish them, and then you
Mm-hmm.
want another one. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I used to never want to read anything.
Yeah.
I used to be the person in school that would be the first person to either Google the Spark Notes or try to find an abridged version of the story just to get the gist of it, just to pass the
Mm-hmm.
test, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was probably like halfway through my college experience that I decided to start reading again, and
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like a dare to myself. It was like, you're not gonna like this. Like, just prove to yourself that reading is garbage, and then just
Mm-hmm.
try it. And if you don't like it, then you don't ever have to do it again. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole thing kind of spawned out of like something I was raised with, kind of like what you were saying. We all kind of act how we were raised, and
Mm-hmm.
I was raised under this thing called the no thank you portion, meaning it doesn't matter if I didn't want to do something or I didn't want to eat something or I didn't want to try something. I had to at least give it like 10% effort to just see if it was something I was like, if I didn't want peas on my plate, oh, you better believe I got at least 3 of them on my plate because it was a no thank you portion. And so like it didn't matter whether or not you wanted to do it or not. And so I kind of said that to myself. I was like, back then I was like, well, why don't we just do like a no thank you portion of a book, and we'll pick a book that should be pretty engaging. Maybe I can learn something. It won't be a fantasy book. And what's funny is I got addicted to it. Like I got addicted to consuming information, and kind of like I said, where I read books like other people eat sandwiches. And I think a better way to say that would be I read books like most people eat potato chips, because you have one. There's no way you're opening a bag of potato chips and just eating one chip.
You're a liar.
You're gonna either completely sort out that whole bag, or at least take it halfway down before you close it up and think otherwise. But anyway, so back to how we last episode, if you guys checked it out, we talked a little bit about like New Year's resolutions, things to look forward to, and ways that we want to improve ourselves moving forward. And that got me thinking about one of my favorite books of all time. I don't know if this is going to become a new segment on the show, but I got a lot of books I would love to share. But one of my favorite books is written by a guy named Darren Hardy. It's called The Compound Effect. And it's honestly, it's such simple common sense, but like you never think about the longevity of choices. And so this book talks about how seemingly insignificant daily positive choices can change your life tenfold. The kind of thing like, if your parents put like money in a trust fund when you're born, and then you turn 21 and it fully appreciates, and you get this big lump of wealth because it compounded over time on that investment. Same thing can be said for your daily choices. And so a few things to kind of give you examples of this is like a lot of people say, I don't have enough time to do exercising. I don't have enough time to go for a walk. I don't have enough time to, get on a treadmill or be active in my day. I sit all day. How do I get more active? And obviously in our COVID world, this is a little different, but something I think everyone would still be able to relate to is whenever you drive anywhere to go to the grocery store, maybe you actually have to go into the office for once, wherever you're going, I challenge you, if you're someone who struggles with getting out, moving around, and getting more steps in your day, find the parking space that is farthest from the door. Because what that's going to do is it's going to force you to take extra steps that you were never planning on taking. And those extra steps, we all have, iWatches or Fitbits or anything these days. Those extra steps can really add up crazy amounts of extra mileage every single week to month to year. And then by the end of your year, you'll realize that, oh my goodness, I walked an extra 10,000 miles this year because I chose to park further away from something, or because I decided that I didn't need to be as close to the door. Or as simple as saying like, maybe before I start my day, before I have my morning cup of coffee, I'm going to sink a glass of water. And it's not and I'm not talking about choices in your day that make a huge difference in that moment. Like, yes, if you're parking a little bit further away, you're going to have to walk further. And some people might be like, oh, that's annoying. Like, oh, I've got to be outside long, or it's raining and I'm going to get wet. There's always something you got to think about in that moment. But in the grand scheme of it, walking a little bit extra to get to the door is not going to do anything terrible to you. Choosing to have a glass of water in the morning before you have coffee is not going to change your day dramatically. But what it is going to do is it's going to create that experience on a daily basis, which is going to compound into a benefit. Just like people who go to the gym, you don't go to the gym once, get swole AF, and then all of a sudden you're looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger at a like a lifting competition. Like you have to go multiple times a week. You have to do repetitions multiple times over and over and over to get the result that you want. And this book does a really great job of using like anecdotal stories from the author's upbringing, as well as a lot of like real life use cases for it. Even as simple as, if you're someone that doesn't eat healthy a lot, like if your main idea of lunch is like either fast food or pizza or Taco Bell or something like that, it's like, well, imagine if just for a month, if just for 30 days, you chose every single day, instead of having fast food, instead of going reaching for the burger or the slice of pizza at lunchtime because it's easy, it's available, it's there,
Mhm.
actually doing some pre-work and either meal prepping something healthy for yourself or just going ahead and just saying, you know what, I'm going to have that salad today, and I'm going
Yeah.
to forego the 300 calorie dressing that I usually put all over it to make it actually an awful thing to eat. And just challenge yourself, because if you that's that simple difference on a daily basis can absolutely change your life. Whether it's losing weight, getting in shape,
Yep.
becoming financially literate, there are so many things that you can do simply daily that you don't have to worry about the outcome in that moment, because it's just a simple task,
Yeah.
and it just builds over time. I don't know if you have any experience about that yourself, but would love to know kind of how you feel towards that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, Mike, you kind of hit the nail on the head with a lot of that stuff. Kind of to bring it back to the dog, before we got the dog, there's gonna be a lot of transparency on this podcast for you guys to let you know, like, this, we're not the only one. There's habits that we have to break, and there's other things that we have to do. Also, before we got the dog, I would be sleeping, or I'd sleep until like 7:40. I have to clock in at 8. So like I wake up at 7:40, I'm rushing to eat breakfast. I'm picking like probably not the best thing I should pick, and then I'm at work, and then when I get off of work, I take a nap. I take a nap till like 5, which is not a good thing to do at all. And then at like 5, I'm like, oh, let's go stream. So then I stream, and then I'm streaming till like 3 a.m. and whatever. But once we got the dog, it's nah, man. We got to be up at 7. You know, once I'm up at 7, the dog goes back to where she has to go at a certain point in time, and also it gives me a sense of when I do have that free time where I can sit down at my desk, and it's like, all right, I have to design. I have clients. I have, it's all right. So we have 3 hours to get this done. Let's go. So little things like that where it gets you in a habit of, when whatever it's the shortest day, or you have things you got to do, and it pushes pressure on you like that to try and get things done, whether it be working out, designing, or trying to make sure you're getting the most out of your day, and you're not like, wow, I really just sat inside all day. Little things like that kind of help you move forward with your life. And honestly, when you lay down in bed, you will sit there and go, wow, I actually did a lot of things that I wanted to do today. So I completely agree with you. It does sound like a great book. Honestly, I'm kind of with you. I hate reading, but I will try my best. I might have to give it the what was it?
Yo, if you hate reading, highly recommend Audible. It's a
Yeah.
if you have an Amazon account, you can link it through Amazon. It's an
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, I guess, company, like subsidiary company.
Mm-hmm.
It does cost like about $15 a month or something crazy. But honestly, it's $15 a month. But in the same vein that uh, Netflix kind of works is, well, for all new accounts, you have this ability that if you get a book, you finish that book, or you didn't like the book, they let you trade the book back in to a certain number of trade-ins before they say, okay, you've had enough trade-ins for the month. Wait till next month to get your next credit to get a new book. But ever since I've started with audiobooks, like, I'm not the quickest reader.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sit down
Same.
to pick up a book, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this is a time investment, and I can't be doing anything else when I'm reading a book. Right, I'm sitting down at my desk or on a chair or in bed or on a couch with a book in my hand reading it. Now I think there's a lot of value in actually reading paperback books, but the the magnitude in which I'm able to crush books when they're in audio format is amazing, because when
Mm-hmm.
I work, I usually listen to podcasts or music anyway. So by putting in a book in my ears while I'm working, even if I'm passively listening to some of the content, I'm still absorbing enough of it to get value from books. I think it should be noted that I primarily read like self help, success oriented, career oriented, positive thinking style books, because
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there's a lot that happens in the real world that none of us are ever taught about in school. We
Yep.
think that we go to school to become, worldly, to be able to get into the real world and succeed. But,
Mm-hmm.
not many individuals out there either get a chance to actually have a formal education, or let alone ever be around somebody that is, financially literate or understands, actually how to run a business or how to
Yeah.
invest stocks or real estate. And there's a lot of books out there that are really phenomenal. And when they're in audio format, it changes the game, because
Yeah.
you can do other things
Mm-hmm.
while consuming the content. And I think that's pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
I completely agree, and also it also depends on how you learn. I've never been one to read books, and that's how I learn. I've always been a person who gets something on audio. Like I listen to stuff all day, every day. So I'm listening to YouTube videos, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to whatever it is, and I feel like whenever I listen to it, I can retain it more and I'll remember it. So that's how I learn.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you on that. So no matter what it is, I might actually have to look up some Audible stuff. But just like you, I do read some more like things to better yourself, thinking about more about yourself and as you're getting older and what you should do to move forward, and whether it be better being a better person, better boyfriend, better husband, better whatever. I kind of like listening to those things, and then of course I read the occasional comics to try and get my creativeness into a different realm to bring inspiration into every to other things. But don't feel bad if you guys don't read books. There's always another option. There's always some other way to figure out how you can get it done. And Audible. I mean, if you want to sponsor us, we're here, buddy. Mike's giving you the free shout.
Yeah,
So.
Audible. This is a lot of free advertising I'm giving to you. Honestly, I love it. I know Audible does sponsor podcasts specifically. So maybe that's something we can look out for. I would love to continue talking about more of my favorite books on some future book segments here on the Humble Friends podcast. I think there's a lot of value in those books, and even if it's just an opportunity for me to provide our listeners and you, Graves, a little bit of spark notes on the side, because maybe not everyone has the time to commit to a full audiobook or read a full book, but I would happily dive into the spark notes and the cliff notes for you to kind of let you know kind of what the book's about, and maybe we'll inspire a few people to pick one up.
I think you're on something. Why don't we have like a little like once a month like book like what are those things where everyone sits there where they read one book and they
Oh, like a book club, like a book in a month.
A book. Yeah, like you bring up a book, like I'll bring up a book, whether it's like something we've been reading, whether it's comics, self help, or like what magazine, whatever it may be. Maybe we'll do that, and we can inspire you guys to pick it up, and you could message us and let us know how you feel about it. But
I'm always down to pick up some more literary potato chips.
With that being said, speaking of ads, let's take a break. We're gonna let our ad play, and then we'll be back with some stuff that we're gonna get into that's been happening in the world. But we'll be right back. David, you can break right here. All right. And then we're moving. All right, and we'll bring us back in. Do you want to bring us back in or?
Yeah. So I'm going to speak very adjacently now about the topic, and I'm just going to talk about togetherness, and then I'm kind of going to dribble the ball a few times and then toss it your way, because I just said a bunch of shit with that book. So,
Gotcha. All right.
All right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody. It's 2021. We thought that the year of 2020 would never end, and now we are here with the 2021. And there's a lot of things happening, not just in the United States, but all around the world. And wherever you lie in the situation, whatever your affiliations are, we are here to kind of provide just kind of like a completely adjacent understanding, because it's very important that no matter who you are, where you're from, what color your skin is, what your religious background is, we are the human race. We are we are essentially one people that just happens to come in a lot of different flavors, and it's something that I think that needs to get talked about more, in the sense of that we can do so much when we come together and work as a team. They say teamwork makes the dream work. And I honestly, after a year like 2020, I think that we really do need to make the dream work, because we've come to realize how much we value social interaction when we've been quarantined. We've come to realize that there are lots of people in our society that genuinely have been treated wrongfully, or genuinely haven't been treated as exactly what they should be, and that is exactly as everyone else wants to be treated. It's important to recognize the differences, and it's important to celebrate those differences, because although we are one, we all come from different areas. We have different experiences, and there should never be a situation where we are driven apart from each other, because that literally would only ever create a further gap in everything.
Yep.
Dave, what are you looking for as we move into 2021?
Man,
How are we building this up?
as you know, with everything going on, I just want to let you guys know we are here for you. We are here with you. We do have Discord groups where if you feel alone or if you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, more than welcome to come join us. A lot of that stuff is in the description. But 2021, man, let me quote a song or a person who I've been listening to a lot this year, Jack Harlow, and he said, "I'm done taking advice from people who can't even look at the reflection in the mirror," which means, how are you going to give me advice on certain things or tell me how certain things are, and you can't even look at yourself and say, "Oh, this did happen," or things like that. But even just with everything, it's hard, guys, and I've done a podcast before on things that were happening and things that were touched on, so hopefully you did give that a listen. But it's sad. It's sad with everything going on. It's never fair on either side. Everyone has their own struggles. Everyone has their own backstory. Everyone has their own origin as far as where hate comes from, love comes from, whatever it is. But it's up to you to break that cycle. And I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how many people are going to hate you. I guarantee you, your life will be better because of it. We always have to make 5 steps forward, not 3 steps back. And it feels like recently we've been taking 10 steps back and not a lot forward. But regardless of what's going on, I feel like it can't. I don't want to say it can't, but we are at the bottom right now. It can't get any worse from here. Is what I like to
Well,
say.
I'll chime in on that. It's like, honestly, like I've looked at most of what has conspired in 2020, and so far so much has already happened in
Yeah.
2021. And I want to kind of use the metaphor of a band-aid.
Yeah. Yep.
Because like a lot of what's up until 2020, right? 2020, 2019 and previous, it's almost as if, there's been a big problem. There's been an elephant in the room. There's been a wound,
Hmm.
as for the human race, that we've just consistently just put band-aids on them, put a band-aid and another band-aid, another band-aid, another band-aid. And right now, because of everything that's kind of happened in 2020 with COVID, with politics, with quarantines globally, with the constant increases in
Hmm.
people contracting the virus, I feel like right now we're at this point where it's like the band-aid is being ripped off.
Hmm.
And everyone knows that feeling when the band-aid, literal band-aid, gets ripped off their skin, and it's painful. Either you're pulling at it slowly and you're just through agony through all of it, and some people just tear it right off and just have to shout.
Yeah.
And we are kind of at that moment.
I
But
agree.
what's when you continue to look at that metaphor of the band-aid, is once the tear is off, once the band-aid is gone, then we can begin to heal. Because I
Hmm.
think it's important to have emotions, right? It's important to feel strongly any which way, because a lot of us take actions based on what we hold true as our core values
Yeah.
as people. And the more we begin to realize that all of us really want the same thing. We all want a wonderful life. We all want to be treated appropriately. We all want, the equality that for so long we've asked for, we've
Yep.
wanted, and things keep coming up that almost force us to tear another band-aid off. So we have these constant moments of where we finally find a moment to start healing, and then
Hmm.
another band-aid comes off, and we are forced to feel again
Yeah.
until we can harness that feeling, harness those emotions, and
Hmm.
then begin to transmute them
Hmm.
towards a positive new way, like a positive new outlook that we can hold as a society, because
Yeah.
we cannot go back. We
Hmm.
cannot exist in a world that is void of these kind of conversations, because for too long we've just put band-aids on those conversations.
Yeah.
Someone
I,
brought it
I
up,
completely
and
agree.
whether it's in schools or in corporate America, and they both, like, schools and corporate America are pretty guilty of both of this, because they say,
Yep.
oh, we have a high percentage of diversity, here on our campus or here at our company. And the fact of the matter is that that organizations feel the necessity to talk about how diverse they are is almost pointing a finger at the problem in its entirety. It's like it's you shouldn't. It's not so much about like needing to look like you accept everybody and then telling people a statistic about how we accept everybody. You just should. Like, you know what I mean? Like being diverse as a culture is important, but it shouldn't be a statistic in terms of like, oh, I like for anybody, no matter if you're white, black, whoever you are, wherever you're from, you being part of a diversity statistic almost makes it worse.
Yeah,
there shouldn't be a color variant. There shouldn't be, oh, we need to hire more of this culture so that we can feel more diverse. We should just be hiring
person
good people
capable for the job. Yeah,
exactly. And I think there are wonderful, brilliant, intelligent people from all walks of life, no matter where you're from, what you're like, what your upbringing is. There are opportunities that honestly go by the wayside because maybe they don't get those opportunities or they don't believe in the opportunities in the first place. It's very important that we continue to build this oneness to break down a lot of walls.
Like I said, right now we are at it can't get any worse. We've literally seen, everyone's true colors. You can only move up from here. You know what I'm saying? Like the wall's down. Yeah, you're seeing everything now. Everything's out in the open. Whether it's racism, sexism, you don't like this person, you don't like that person. We know who you are now. You've showed yourself. And that's not for you to say you need to hate them, because a lot of their ignorance comes from in ignorant, which the definition is lack of knowledge on certain things. Is a lot of people have lack of knowledge on certain things, or they've had bad experiences with certain things. So you should always I always try and approach people with open arms, no matter your religion or whatever else, how you feel. Just a little backstory. Like, I am African American. If you do not like African American people, whether how that is or whatever, I always approach you as, oh, okay, what's is there a reason why, or why do you feel this certain way, blah blah. Maybe they'll tell me there's a bad past experience. But with those interactions, a lot of people do like talking to me, even though I'm a very introverted person. But after these conversations that people have with me about whatever it is, I'll be like, oh wow, like, David is a very smart and brilliant young man, and he kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it tends to be a lot of older generations, and as we get older, and as those generations die out, I feel like a lot of things are going to change, because it's crazy, because I doubted a lot of the younger generations. I was sitting there like, when everything was going on, I was like, man, they could care less about what's happening. But seeing how many young people have stepped up, took the torch from a lot of different people who are higher up in these type of civil rights movements, or movements for global warming, or movements for whatever. It's outstanding to see that, no matter how old, no matter what generation, no matter technology divide or whatever, people are always trying to move forward and trying to push the same race that people have been running for years. And it's kind of crazy to think about that, so.
Absolutely. I think what's different this time around is that there's so much more of an introspective look on the problem, because it's no longer are we really as a society looking at the whole. We are now beginning to understand that if we look at ourselves, if we question ourselves, if we question our own beliefs, if we question why we feel certain ways about certain things, we can begin to change ourselves, and in doing so, we change the world around us.
Yes.
A really great quote by someone, I wish I knew who it was. If anyone is listening knows who said this, I'd love to quote them in the credits somewhere. But your life begins to change when you stop looking out the window at the world passing you by, and you take a hard look in the mirror. And when you can look at yourself and tell yourself that everything you need to hear, everything that you've been holding back, or anything, and begin questioning your own stereotypes, your own your biases, and specifically your unconscious biases. And if you don't know what that is, that is when your brain, based on previous experiences, essentially prejudges a scenario and in most cases you kind of go with it because it's what you're naturally biased to go with. You know, if you walk into into an ice cream shop and they have three flavors, they have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. If you know that when you were 5, you had an accident where chocolate got sprayed all over your white shirt, and then you just got just stopped liking chocolate, and for any reason, maybe when you're going to go to the store, you're going to immediately not choose chocolate and want to pick vanilla or strawberry. And that's an unconscious bias because of an experience you would have had previously. That's just like a very loose kind of analogy for it, but it's like when we need to question our unconscious biases more often. And when we as individuals can stop saying, "Hey, you're wrong. The way you think, the way you were brought up is significantly incorrect, and I'm the only one right." Right? When you can stop that mentality, and you can say, "You know what? I may not be able to change the way my neighbor thinks. I may not be able to change the way this dude who just cut me off in traffic thinks. I may not be able to change the way my boss thinks, but I can change the way I think. And I can begin to produce and support the message that I know is at harmony with the best positive result that I want to see in my world."
Yeah.
And only by doing so, by living by that example, will you begin to change the average, begin to affect the people you come in contact with. And so it's very important to never try to change someone's mind, but show them that you have the ability to change your own, and start living along those lines, for sure.
And with that being said, guys, I've said it at the beginning, and I'll say it at the end of this because we don't want to get too politic heavy with you guys and everything. But our heart goes out to every one of you guys, whether you're injured, whatever's happening. Hate is being thrown at you, and you try and reach out with love. Keep pushing, man. Things are going to change. I'll tell you now. From when my mom was a child to now when I'm an adult, and who knows when I have a child. Whenever that happens, things are changing. People are with you. People are there for you. Don't give up. Don't stop fighting. Keep pushing. There's been many leaders before you who have, got, hit with the metaphorical stick of the society and everything else like that. But guess what? They kept going. They turned the other cheek and kept pushing. So things are changing. Whether it's slowly or fast, it's changing, and I can promise you that right now, guys. So that's a little bit of positivity for you, me and Mike. Our heart goes out to you. We love you guys. And with that being said, we're going to talk about something new with the new year coming out. There's always time to find new things to do, whether, you were doing it before the year or you're doing it now. A new year is a fresh start. And sometimes some people need that. So, Mike, any new habits or new skills that you've thought about taking up this year or things that you want to talk about as far as that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Just like books, like what I kind of tricked myself into like I trick my I honestly it's like I take things that I don't want to do, like I procrastinate about, and then I try to find a way to trick myself into wanting to do it. I tend to gamify a lot of my life, because I mean when you're gaming, you're going for that achievement, you're trying to get that next top score, you're trying to do something. So whether I'm doing a job or anything like that, I've been trying to like gamify it, and what I mean by that is like try to do something like the dishes, right? Think about the dishes. No one likes doing the dishes. I don't care. You could be making a bajillion dollars doing dishes. You still don't like doing it.
Yep.